Welcome to this Killik Explains Finance video. This week makes sense to do 5 resolutions for investors in 2017 and take this as an opportunity as we look ahead to wrap up some of our core investing messages. Now, these resolutions need to be seen in context, and that context is this. A sensible approach would be to identify 3 pots we're going to aim for potentially. One is the rainy day fund. That is 3 to 6 months' salary tucked safely away in something like cash in case we lose our jobs, need to fix a roof, get ill, and so on. And that will stop us from having to liquidate long-term important assets that are designed to meet predictable cash short to medium-term requirements. So, on top of the rainy day fund, we may have sabbaticals to pay for, children to pay for, clearing mortgages to pay for. In other words, we can identify those goals and try and build savings to meet them. So that is part of the overall plan. And then don't forget, you need a lifetime savings pot because at some point we want to retire, achieve financial freedom, stop work, pay for long-term care, and basically that needs to be a separate, decent-sized pot to fund that. So think of it as 3 separate requirements, and in that context, what are my resolutions? Well, here they are. I'm going to talk through all of these in a bit more detail in a moment. Harness the power of a pound as early as possible, spread your money around or diversify, save and invest tax effectively, conquer your natural biases, when I cover just 2 here, there are plenty more, and invest systematically and rationally. Right, let's take a look at those. Why diversify? Come back to the power of a pound in a moment. Well, stocks can be volatile, especially short term. We saw that in 2016, around the time of China fears in February, the Brexit vote in June, and then Donald Trump later in the year. It's all been happening. However, if you're a single stock investor, you will potentially feel the full force of a short-term downturn. So we like to basically take an approach that spreads risk. Now, if you diversify over a number of stocks, somewhere between 15 and 25 achieves most of the benefits according to CAPM theory, you won't be fully protected if the market as a whole takes a downturn, but you will eliminate most of that single stock risk. Now, BP demonstrated a few years ago what single stock risk can really look like. A lot of people thought BP was the safest stock in the market. It was certainly the biggest at the time. And suddenly, bang, deep water happened. The dividend was cut. A lot of people thought that could never happen to a company the size of BP. And the company has struggled to make a full recovery ever since. So if it can happen to BP, it can happen to a company of any size. Now, tax-effective investing. What's that all about? It is about using tax-effective wrappers, but that's not all. So as we head towards the 5th of April, do think about other ways to save tax effectively, but as a minimum, you should be thinking about using the individual savings allowance. That is a way of sheltering investments from tax, and it's easy and relatively cheap to do so. Self-invested personal pensions, or indeed any personal pensions, as a way of building that lifetime savings fund. And then you've got enterprise investment schemes and venture capital trusts for those people who are fortunate enough to use up the first 2 buckets and are prepared to take some investment risk in return for some quite interesting tax breaks. This is not all of tax-effective investing, not by a long shot, but as a minimum, at least look at the 2 on the left. Now, just to show how powerful this can be, the power of a pound, I mentioned that as resolution 1, combined with tax-effective investing. Let's take 3 growth rates, a contribution of £300 per month, over 25 years. All right, so the green bars represent exactly that amount paid in over 25 years. Here comes the tax-free growth you could enjoy on top at these 3 growth rates. These are not guaranteed, they're purely illustrative, and they're before charges. But nonetheless, bit of pink slice on top at 2%, bigger at 5%, bigger still at 8%, and that's the interesting bit if you like, meaning that £300 per month over 25 years could become about £117,000 at 2%, £176,000 at 5%, and £274 at a punchy 8%. But if you think about it, last year, 2016, the FTSE 100 with reinvested dividends managed comfortably double-digit real returns. So 8% is punchy, but it's not totally unrealistic. Now, a quick look back to my final resolutions. If we take a look at the UK stock market since the early 1970s, you can notice a few things. There they are. Some nasty downturns, some nasty dips. So the key is conquer your natural fears, conquer your biases. People do panic sell, and they put themselves in a position where they have to force sell right at the wrong moment. So how are we going to avoid that? Now, panic selling is all about basically people being greedy and fearful at the same time as everybody else. 2016, lots of examples. Around February, China wobbling, FTSE heading south. lots of messages to investors saying, sell everything. No, that would have been a classic error. Brexit in June, sell everything. No. Donald Trump might be elected, sell everything. No, the FTSE carried on marching upwards. And if you are greedy and fearful, as everybody else is, you panic sell, buy at the top of the market, then JP Morgan have come up with a rather worrying statistic. They have shown that if you miss the 10 best investing days between 1993 and 2013, you would have halved your annualized returns from the American stock market. And the point is, people who follow the crowd, people who panic sell, are likely to do just that. Force selling. Now, this is the idea that although stocks rise over time, the chart I showed you illustrates quite clearly there are some big dips, and they can be 50% or more. They can be monsters. In the early 1970s, it was something like 2/3. Now, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you have to sell necessarily in one of those downturns. So, how are we going to avoid that? And the answer is basically take a strategic approach to your asset allocation. This is just a very quick summary. Your rainy day fund, you might need that tomorrow. Keep that in cash. Meeting those medium-term goals. Depending on where they fall, a mixture of cash, fixed income securities, and equities will probably work. Lifetime savings, that's your long-term retirement pot, long-term care costs, probably want to be 100% in equities. Which type? I can't tell you, but in equities to get the maximum chance of long-term growth. Okay, there it is. Any questions? editor@killik.com. And to see related videos that will help you with 2017's investing, killikexplains.com.